December 4th, 2024, 6:45 in the morning. Midtown Manhattan was just beginning to stir, the first wave of commuters flooding the sidewalks. Coffee shops flicker into life, the city's heartbeat starting its daily rhythm. Outside the New York Hilton Hotel on 6th Avenue, the winter air was sharp, biting, the kind of cold that makes you pull your coat tighter and quicken your step. Businessman after businessman hurried past the hotel entrance, briefcases swinging, eyes fixed on their phones, completely unaware that in less than 60 seconds, this ordinary Tuesday morning was about to become a crime scene that would shock the nation. Brian Thompson, 50-year-old CEO of UnitedHealthcare, one of the largest health insurance companies in America, stepped out of his black SUV. He was in New York for the company's annual investor conference, scheduled to begin in just hours. Thompson was a man who commanded boardrooms, a figure who made decisions affecting millions of lives, millions of insurance claims, millions of dollars. He wore an expensive navy suit, his silver hair perfectly styled, his expression focused as he moved toward the hotel entrance. He had no security detail with him, no bodyguards flanking his sides, just another executive on another business trip. He never saw it coming. From behind a parked car, a figure emerged, dressed entirely in black, face obscured by a dark hoodie and a surgical mask. The gunman moved with terrifying precision. No hesitation, no warning, just cold, calculated movement. The first shot rang out, echoing off the concrete and glass canyon of the city street. Thompson stumbled, his hand reaching for his chest, his eyes wide with shock and confusion. The second shot followed immediately, then a third. The gunman's arm was steady, his aim deliberate. This was not a robbery gone wrong. This was not a crime of passion or panic. This was an execution. Thompson collapsed onto the sidewalk, his blood spreading across the cold pavement like dark ink on paper. Pedestrians screamed, scattering in every direction, their morning coffee cups clattering to the ground. The gunman turned, moving quickly but not running, his movements controlled, practiced. He disappeared into the pre-dawn shadows between buildings, vanishing as suddenly as he had appeared. Within minutes, the scene was chaos. NYPD officers swarmed the area, their radios crackling with urgent communications. Paramedics worked frantically over Thompson's body, but it was already too late. The CEO of one of America's most powerful healthcare corporations was dead on a Manhattan sidewalk, murdered in broad daylight in one of the most surveilled cities in the world. Detective Sarachin arrived at the scene at 7:15, a 15-year veteran of the NYPD. She had seen her share of murders, from gang violence in the Bronx to domestic disputes turned deadly in Brooklyn. But this was different. Everything about this scene screamed professional hit. Get me every camera feed within a 6-block radius. She embarked her team, her breath forming clouds in the frigid air. Traffic cams, security cameras, doorbell cameras, everything. This guy didn't just vanish into thin air. The forensics team was already combing the scene, marking shell casings with yellow evidence markers. 3 9mm rounds, fired from close range. No witnesses who got a clear look at the shooter's face. Just descriptions of a man in dark clothing, average height, moving with purpose. It was almost too clean, too efficient. Chun knelt beside one of the shell casings, her gloved hand hovering over it without touching. Something caught her eye. Small markings on the pavement near where the shooter had stood. She leaned closer, pulling out her flashlight. Words, carved or etched into the concrete. Her blood ran cold as she read them. Deny, defend, depose. What the hell does that mean, her partner, Detective Marcus Rodriguez, asked, crouching beside her. Chin stood, her mind already racing through possibilities. Insurance terminology, legal jargon, a message. This wasn't just murder. This was a statement. Someone wanted Brian Thompson dead, and they wanted everyone to know why. By noon, the investigation had expanded exponentially. The FBI was involved. Corporate security from UnitedHealthcare was cooperating, providing lists of disgruntled employees, recent lawsuits, anyone who might have a grievance against Thompson or the company. The list was long, disturbingly long. UnitedHealthcare denied thousands of claims every year. Families who lost loved ones because treatments weren't covered. People bankrupted by medical bills. The company had enemies, more than Chin could count. But this level of planning, this kind of execution, this required more than anger. This required resources, skills, and a mind capable of extraordinary focus. The security footage started coming in, dozens of angles, hundreds of hours to review. The tech team worked through lunch, through dinner, piecing together the shooter's movements. He had arrived at the scene 45 minutes before Thompson. He waited, patient, watching. When Thompson's car pulled up, the shooter was already in position. Then they found something that made Chen's stomach drop. Footage from a coffee shop 2 blocks away, time-stamped 30 minutes before the shooting. The gunman, still masked but clearly visible, purchasing a bottle of water and an energy bar. He paid cash, but the camera caught something crucial. As he turned to leave, his jacket shifted, and for just a fraction of a second, his face was partially visible. Not enough for a full identification, but enough to start building a profile. Run that through facial recognition. Chen ordered cross-reference with anyone who's filed complaints against UnitedHealthcare, anyone with medical training, anyone with military or law enforcement background. The search parameters were broad, but they had to start somewhere. Hours turned into days. The media frenzy was relentless. Cable news ran the story 24/7. Social media exploded with theories, conspiracies, and disturbingly, praise for the killer. Messages flooded in calling the shooter a hero, a vigilante fighting against corporate greed. It made Chin sick. 5 days after the murder, the breakthrough came. A hostel in the Upper West Side. The manager recognized a man from the released security photos. He had checked in 3 days before the shooting under a fake name, paid cash, kept to himself. Chun and her team descended on the hostel within the hour. The room was clean, too clean, almost sterile. But forensics found something. A single fingerprint on the bathroom faucet. They ran it through every database available. Local, state, federal. Nothing. The killer had no criminal record. He was a ghost. Until he wasn't. December 9th. A McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, over 300 miles from New York City. An employee called the police, nervous but certain. The man sitting in the corner booth, hunched over a laptop, matched the photos released by the NYPD. When officers arrived and approached him, asking for identification, he handed over a fake New Jersey driver's license. But in his backpack, they found something that changed everything. A ghost gun, 9mm, the same caliber that killed Brian Thompson, and a handwritten manifesto, pages and pages of rage against the healthcare industry, against corporate America, against a system he believed was murdering people for profit. His real name was Luigi Mangione, 26 years old, Ivy League educated, from a wealthy Maryland family, a software engineer with a promising future, and now, the most wanted man in America. But when detectives began digging into his background, into his past, into the months leading up to that cold December morning in Manhattan, they discovered something that made the entire case even more disturbing. Luigi Mangione wasn't just angry. He was organized. He was connected. And the evidence suggested something truly terrifying. He might not have been working alone. Luigi Mangione sat in an interrogation room at the Altoona Police Department, his wrists cuffed to the metal table, his expression eerily calm. Detective Chun had flown to Pennsylvania the moment she got the call. She stood behind the two-way mirror now, studying him. This wasn't the face of a hardened criminal. This was a young man who looked like he could be working at Google or leading a startup. Clean-cut, intelligent eyes, the kind of person you'd never suspect of cold-blooded murder. That made him even more dangerous. "Tell me about his background," Chin said to the FBI agent beside her, Special Agent David Morrison, who had joined the task force. Morrison flipped open his tablet, scanning the file. Luigi Nicholas Mangione, born March 1998 in Towson, Maryland, comes from serious money. His family owns country clubs, nursing homes, a radio station. Went to Gilman School, one of the most prestigious prep schools in Baltimore. Valedictorian. Graduated from the University of Pennsylvania with degrees in computer science and engineering. By all accounts, he was brilliant. Was, Chin repeated. What happened? Morrison's jaw tightened. About 18 months ago, something changed. He suffered a severe back injury, chronic pain that wouldn't go away. Underwent surgery, but it didn't help. He became obsessed with his condition, with the healthcare system, with insurance companies denying treatments. He started posting on online forums, Reddit communities, places where people shared horror stories about medical bankruptcies, denied claims, loved ones died because insurance wouldn't cover experimental treatments. Chin watched Mangione through the glass. He hadn't moved, hadn't asked for a lawyer, hadn't said a word. Just sat there, staring at the table like he was solving an equation in his head. His social media went dark 6 months ago. Morrison continued. Completely offline. Friends said he moved to Hawaii, then San Francisco, then nobody knew where he was. His family filed a missing person report in November. They were worried about him. They should have been, Chin muttered. The manifesto they found in his backpack was 47 pages long. Chin had read every word on the flight over. It was articulate, methodical, and absolutely chilling. Luigi didn't just hate UnitedHealthcare. He hated the entire system. He wrote about profit margins built on human suffering, about algorithms designed to deny coverage, about CEOs making millions while patients died waiting for approvals. He called Brian Thompson a symbol, a necessary sacrifice to wake up America. And the most disturbing part? He wrote that Thompson was just the beginning. Chin entered the interrogation room, sliding into the chair across from Luigi. Up close, she could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the slight tremor in his hands. Not from fear, from pain. Your back still hurts, she said. It wasn't a question. Luigi's eyes flicked up to meet hers. For a moment, something human passed across his face. Every day, he said quietly. His voice was educated, measured. Every single day. So you decided Brian Thompson should die for that? I decided, Luigi said slowly, that someone needed to pay attention. How many people has UnitedHealthcare killed through denial of care? How many families have they destroyed? Thompson made $32 million last year while people died because the company let refuse to cover treatments that could have saved them. You want to talk about murder, detective? Let's talk about systemic murder. Chin leaned forward. You waited for him outside that hotel. You shot him 3 times. You watched him die on that sidewalk. That's not protest. That's not activism. That's murder. I know what it is, Luigi said, his voice hardening. I planned it for months. I knew exactly what I was doing. The words on the ground. Deny, defend, depose. That's from a book about insurance company tactics, isn't it? Luigi almost smiled. You did your homework. Yes, it's how they operate. Deny the claim. Defend the decision. Depose the patient if they fight back legally. It's a strategy, a business model built on saying no until people give up or die. Chin pulled out her phone, showing him a photo. Do you know this man? The image was of another young man, similar age to Luigi, standing outside a hospital in Los Angeles. The photo had been found on a dark web forum that Luigi had frequented under an encrypted username. Luigi's expression didn't change, but Chin saw it. The micro-expression. Recognition. We found your communications, Chin said. Encrypted, but our cyber team is very good. You weren't just talking to yourself on those forums. You were talking to others. Others who felt the same way. Others who lost people to insurance denials. Others who wanted revenge. I acted alone, Luigi said firmly. Did you? Chin slid another photo across the table. This one showed a luxury hotel in Seattle. 2 weeks before you killed Thompson, someone hacked into UnitedHealthcare's executive travel database. They accessed Thompson's schedule, his hotel reservations, his security protocols. That wasn't you, Luigi. You were in San Francisco. But someone helped you. Luigi stared at the photo, his jaw clenched. The ghost gun you used, Chin continued. We traced the components. They were purchased online by 6 different people, shipped to 6 different addresses, then assembled. One person can't be in 6 places at once. You had help. Morrison entered the room, laying down a file. We just got the warrant results from your laptop. Luigi, we found the network. 12 people across the country, all connected through encrypted channels, all sharing information, all motivated by the same rage against healthcare corporations. Chen watched Luigi's face carefully. You're not a lone wolf, are you? You're a part of something bigger. Luigi was silent for a long moment. Then finally he spoke. You think I'm the problem? I'm just the first. The system is broken, detective. Corporations kill thousands every year with paperwork and profit margins, and nobody goes to jail. I killed one man, and the whole country wants my head. Where's the justice in that? Who are the others? Chen demanded. Luigi leaned back, the chains of his handcuffs rattling. You're asking the wrong questions. Then what's the right question? Luigi's eyes were cold now, empty of emotion. The right question is this. If I could plan and execute something like this, what do you think the others are planning right now while you're wasting time interrogating me? Chen's blood froze. Morrison grabbed his phone, already calling his team. But Chen kept her eyes locked on Luigi, and in that moment, she understood. This wasn't the end of the investigation. This wasn't even close. Outside that room, across America, others were watching, waiting, planning, and Brian Thompson was just the beginning. But the worst part? When Chen walked out of that interrogation room and checked her phone, there was already a message waiting from NYPD headquarters. Another healthcare executive had just missed his morning meeting in Boston. His assistant found his car in the parking garage. The door was open. The seat was covered in blood. And on the concrete beside the car, written in red paint, were 3 words. Deny, defend, depose. Boston, 7:32 in the morning. The parking garage beneath Harbor Health Insurance headquarters was sealed off, a maze of yellow crime scene tape and flashing police lights. Detective Chun had been on a plane within an hour of getting the call, her mind racing faster than the aircraft cutting through the cold December sky. Special Agent Morrison sat beside her, his face grim, his fingers flying across his laptop as he coordinated with field offices across the country. We've identified 8 of the 12 people in Luigi's network, Morrison said, his voice tight. All of them lost someone. A wife denied cancer treatment. A father who couldn't get approval for a necessary surgery. A daughter who died waiting for an insurance company to greenlight a heart transplant. Every single one of them has a story. Every single one of them has a reason to hate the healthcare industry. And now they're executing executives. Chen said, staring out the window at the clouds below. Where are they? That's the problem. They've gone ghost. Completely off-grid. No cell phone activity. No credit card usage. No digital footprint. They planned this for months, maybe longer. They knew we'd come for them eventually. The Boston crime scene was worse than Chen expected. Robert Kellerman, 53-year-old CEO of Harbor Health, had been ambushed as he arrived for work. Unlike Thompson's execution, this one was messy, desperate. Kellerman had fought back. There was evidence of a struggle, blood spatter patterns indicating he'd tried to run, defensive wounds on his hands. But the outcome was the same. 3 shots, center mass. The killer had fled, but this time they'd left something behind. Detective Chen, a forensics technician, approached, holding an evidence bag. Inside was a cell phone, cracked screen, covered in blood. Found this under the victim's car. We think the shooter dropped it during the struggle. Chen's heart raced. Can you access it? Already working on it. Give us 20 minutes. Those 20 minutes felt like hours. Chen walked the crime scene, reconstructing the attack in her mind. The shooter had been waiting in the shadows between cars, just like Luigi had waited outside the Hilton. But something went wrong. Kellerman saw them, maybe heard footsteps, and tried to fight. That meant the shooter was less experienced than Luigi, less prepared. That was good news and bad news. Less experience meant more mistakes. But it also meant more unpredictable, more dangerous. The forensics tech called her over, the phone now connected to their equipment. We're in. Last calls made were to a burner number, untraceable. But there's a messaging app encrypted, but we cracked it. Detective, you need to see this. Chen leaned over the screen, reading the messages. Her blood ran cold. Philadelphia, Chicago, Miami. They're not stopping. They have a list. Morrison was already on his phone, alerting field offices, dispatching teams to every major healthcare insurance company in those cities. But Chin knew they were too late. You couldn't protect every executive, every office, every parking garage. The network had fractured after Luigi's arrest, but instead of stopping them, it had made them more desperate, more reckless. They're accelerating, Chin said. Luigi was the leader, the one holding them back, making sure everything was perfect. Now he's locked up, and they're acting on their own, trying to finish what he started before we can stop them. The next 48 hours were a blur. Philadelphia, a pharmaceutical company vice president found dead in his home, shot through his bedroom window by a sniper who vanished into the night. Chicago, a hospital administrator survived an attack in a restaurant parking lot only because an off-duty cop happened to be nearby and returned fire, wounding the shooter. Miami, a medical billing executive received a package at her office containing a USB drive and a note. The drive had detailed records of every claim her company had denied in the past 5 years, names and faces of people who died as a result. The note said, "You're next. Deny. Defend. Depose." The country was in a panic. Healthcare executives were hiring private security, some going into hiding, others demanding federal protection. The media coverage was constant, overwhelming. But what disturbed Chin most was the public reaction. For every person condemning the killings, there seemed to be another defending them, calling the killers heroes, vigilantes fighting against corporate corruption. Online forums exploded with support. Fundraising campaigns for Luigi's legal defense raised millions in days. Murals appeared in cities across America, with his face painted alongside words like justice and revolution. Chin sat in a hotel room in Miami, surrounded by case files, crime scene photos, the manifesto Luigi had written. She'd read it so many times she could recite passages from memory. And the more she read, the more she understood something terrifying. Luigi wasn't crazy. He was methodical, intelligent, and absolutely convinced he was right. He'd turned murder into activism, violence into a movement. And even from behind bars, his message was spreading like a virus. Her phone rang. "Morrison, we got one," he said. "Chicago shooter. She's in custody." 28-year-old former nurse named Amanda Price. Her husband died 3 years ago from complications during a surgery that their insurance initially denied coverage for. By the time they approved it, it was too late. "Is she talking?" "That's why I'm calling. She wants to talk to you. Only you." 6 hours later, Chin sat across from Amanda Price in a Chicago holding cell. The woman looked exhausted, broken, her hands trembling as she clutched a cup of water, but her eyes were defiant. "You don't understand," Amanda said, her voice cracking. "My husband was 32 years old. We had a 2-year-old daughter. He had a blockage in his heart, a routine procedure, 99% success rate. But our insurance said it wasn't medically necessary, that he should try medication first, lose weight, change his lifestyle. We appealed. We fought. We sent in letters from his doctors. They denied us 3 times. By the time they finally approved it, 6 months later, the blockage had caused permanent damage. He died on the operating table. My daughter doesn't have a father because some algorithm decided his life wasn't worth the cost. So you decided to kill people?" "I decided," Amanda said, tears streaming down her face, "that someone needed to feel what we felt. Someone needed to understand that these aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. These are lives. Human lives. And if the system won't change, if these companies won't stop killing people for profit, then maybe fear will make them think twice." Chin leaned forward. "Where are the others? Amanda? Who else is out there?" Amanda shook her head. "You can't stop this. Even if you catch all of us, there will be more. Every day, another family gets a denial letter. Every day, another person dies because they couldn't afford treatment. Every day, this system creates more people like me, like Luigi, like all of us. You're not fighting 12 people, detective. You're fighting an army that doesn't even know it exists yet." 3 weeks later, the final member of Luigi's network was arrested in Seattle, attempting to access the office building of a major insurance conglomerate. The crisis, at least the immediate one, was over. Executives returned to work under heavy security. The news cycle moved on to other stories. But Chen knew the truth. Amanda was right. Luigi Mangione's trial was set for the following year. He'd pleaded not guilty, and his lawyers were preparing a defense based on temporary insanity, on chronic pain, on a broken healthcare system that had driven a brilliant young man to madness. But Chen had sat across from him in that interrogation room. She'd looked into his eyes. There was no insanity there, only conviction, only certainty that he'd done what needed to be done. The night before Chen flew back to New York, she received a letter. No return address. Inside was a single page, typed and signed. Detective Chen, you stopped us, but you didn't stop the problem. Somewhere in America right now, someone is sitting in a hospital room, watching someone they love die because an insurance company said no. Somewhere, a father is choosing between his daughter's medication and his rent. Somewhere, a mother is declaring bankruptcy because cancer treatment destroyed her finances before the cancer could destroy her body. And somewhere, in the quiet desperation of that moment, someone is deciding that the system needs to change, no matter the cost. Luigi showed us the way. We were just the first. Ask yourself, detective, when the next one comes, and there will be a next one, will you be ready? Will anyone? Chen put the letter down, her hands shaking. She walked to her hotel window, looking out at the Miami skyline, at the thousands of lights representing thousands of lives, each one with their own story, their own struggles, their own reasons to be angry at a system that seemed designed to break them. Somewhere out there, the next Luigi Mangione was being created, not by criminal intent or mental illness, but by a healthcare system that treated human lives as acceptable losses in the pursuit of profit. And Detective Sarah Chen, who had dedicated her life to catching criminals, to stopping violence, to protecting the innocent, had to face an impossible truth. Sometimes the real crime isn't the one you can arrest someone for. Sometimes the real killer wears a suit and hides behind corporate policies and shareholders' interests. And sometimes, no matter how many people you put in prison, the cycle just continues, spinning forward, creating new victims, new villains, new tragedies waiting to explode. Luigi Mangione would spend the rest of his life behind bars. But his message, his movement, his manifesto would live on, spreading to the darkness of desperation, waiting for the next person pushed too far, the next life destroyed by bureaucracy and greed, the next spark that would ignite into another nightmare. Chen closed her eyes, and for the first time in her career, she wasn't sure if she caught the criminal or the criminal had caught her, trapping her in a case that had no real ending. Only pauses between chapters of violence that would write themselves into America's future, one denied claim at a time. The question wasn't if it would happen again. The question was when. And next time, would anyone even be surprised?